All right, man, peace. So, brothers, I'm sitting here checking out First Take with Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman. Today, they happen to be on location in Dallas, Texas, because the Dallas Cowboys are going to be participating in the opening round of the NFL playoffs tomorrow night. And I just happened to catch this very interesting mini segment here where Will Cain is out in the audience interacting with the fans. And of course, he happens to ask a question to what is very obviously a quote-unquote stud lesbian on the left right here with the Dallas Cowboys baseball hat on. And the reason why I bring this up is because I've stated numerous times on this channel that the so-called black community is oftentimes castigated for being quote-unquote homophobic. And as I've stated in the past, not only is the so-called black community now homophobic, the so-called black community in America is the least homophobic community, quote-unquote community, of any so-called race in America, and it's not even close. Because not only can homosexuals and lesbians walk around every so-called black community in America without being harassed, they actually get celebrated. Homosexuals oftentimes become confederate with or friends with so-called heterosexual black women who are usually globalists and want to see everybody come together. Stud lesbians are allowed to emasculate so-called black men and little boys because they want to mimic them. They want to take that authority away from the so-called black man. They want to be the so-called black man, and that's why they dress up like so-called black men. And the reason why I'm bringing all this up is because we're going to see when Will Cain asks this person here a question, she's going to be very upset with Stephen A. Smith. Because as we all know, Stephen A. Smith has styled himself as the #1 Cowboy hater, and she's a Cowboy fan. But I want you guys to pay very close attention, not only to how she projects herself at Stephen A. Smith, but how he picks up on it automatically and he responds in kind. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
JoJo's going to get you. Go, JoJo.
Hold on, let me check Stephen A. again for the second time right now, okay?
Now, brothers, did you see that? She opened it by saying, let me check Stephen A. Smith for the second time. Now, for those of you who watch this show, when they go on location, whether they travel to a certain city during the NBA Finals or the NFL playoffs, they'll go out into the audience and they'll interview certain fans. What you'll oftentimes find with male fans or heterosexual female fans is they'll just ask the question. But the homosexual female or the quote-unquote lesbian, she feels the need to quote-unquote preface her statement by talking about how she's going to check Stephen A. Smith. Now, this is a practice that is very prevalent in the so-called black community, not even just with lesbians. Liberal black women, period, they like to talk about how they're going to check somebody. They check everyone except for themselves. This is a way for them to initiate the emasculation program or agenda against regular black men, because when the black female, the liberal black female, especially the lesbian, which is the most extreme version of the liberal black woman, when they say that they're going to check somebody, what they really mean is, I'm going to talk to you however I want, and you can't say anything back, because if you do, I'm going to call the white man's police force on you. And it's very unfortunate, man. That's why I make these videos about the so-called black man protecting his seed. Because as we all know, there is no foolproof plan to make sure that our children grow up to be beneficial members of quote-unquote society. But it's better to have a man there who actually loves his daughter and is training his daughter on the beauty of her femininity than what we have here, which is somebody trying to look like Eazy-E from NWA. I mean, it's an abomination. But you know what? Let's let her continue.
Let me let you know why we're going to win this game, Stephen A., the biggest Cowboys hater in the history of the land. We got the top 5 defense in the NFL.
Let me say this also. And I get certain females who come on my channel catching themselves trying to go back and forth about sports. And the main thing that I tell them is you need to be going back and forth with your man about where you guys are going to be spending your time together and, you know, so on and so forth. That's what you should be concerned with. I don't go back and forth with women about sports. And I think that, unfortunately, a lot of so-called black men have become accustomed to talking about certain topics with women that they really shouldn't be talking about. Is it a bad thing for a woman to like sports? No, it's not. But for her to be trying to go back and forth, arguing and debating with men about sports, no, that's not productive. We don't need that. What we need is for her to be as good a person to her man as possible. That's what's going to help our quote-unquote community. And I feel like if more so-called black men thought on that level, we'd have far fewer relationship issues. A lot of you guys have relationship issues because of your thought process. Once again, The female in this society knows that if she has an issue with her man, because her man is too much of a man for her, she can go to the next dude, who oftentimes is a liberal black man, aka a simp, and she can run her hijinks on him. And then when she gets tired of running her hijinks on liberal black men, then she can go become a lesbian, which is probably what happened to this person right here. And of course, people are going to say, well, people are born lesbian. There are many people who were heterosexual all throughout their 20s and all of a sudden became lesbian.
Oh, baby, we got the most complete roster we've ever had in the history of the Cowboys Nation, baby. We gonna take it all the way to the top, and we got the biggest hater in the building. So Cowboys taking it all the way, baby.
Now look at that broad, brothers. So-called broad anyway. She felt the need to stand up and get all rah-rah and then throw punches at the end. And now look at how Stephen A. Smith is going to respond. Normally, Stephen A. Smith will respond to the protestations of certain fan bases. He'll just answer the question. But look at how he prefaces his response, because he's going to take note of her energy. Everything in life is about energy. It's not about the individuals. It's never anything personal. It's about the energy that they emit. But let's see how he responds. And who the hell's grandmother is this in the lower right-hand corner with with the damn blue braids? This is ridiculous, man. Brothers, once again, this is why the woman is not supposed to be overly concerned with sports. She's supposed to be concerned with pleasing her man, because this type of shit that happens.
Knockout blow. Knockout blow.
Hey, y'all,
Look at this. Whose grandmother is this? Looking like an old ass Harlequin, the Joker's girlfriend.
did y'all hear her tone? Did y'all hear her tone? It's so volatile. It was hurting my spirit. It was.
In other words, Stephen A. Smith was letting her know that you're way too volatile, you're way too aggressive, and you're not intimidating me. You're really only embarrassing yourself. That's really what he said. That's why he said, her tone is hurting my spirit, because you're trying to act like a man and you're not. But most of these liberal black females are teeter-tottering towards lesbianism. A lot of them are having these lesbian trysts and waffling back and forth, what they call fluid sexuality, so on and so forth. And people like her, the quote-unquote stud on the left-hand side, they prey on that. They prey on the confusion of the average modern-day so-called black woman. Let me rewind this back just a little bit.
Hurt my.
Knockout blow. Knockout blow.
Hey, y'all, did y'all hear her tone? Did y'all hear her tone? It's so volatile. It was hurting my spirit. It was hurting my spirit. You don't have to be that way. Here's the bottom line.
In other words, he's telling her to mellow out, soften up.
You can talk all the stuff that you want about the Dallas Cowboys. At some point in time, it's about showing improvement. This is not the regular season. Dallas Cowboys have had very successful regular seasons. They've looked very, very good on a period of a multitude of times over the.
She probably wishes that she could play for the Cowboys.
Over the years, until the playoffs begin, and then there's an APB out for them. Everybody looking for them. Where are you? We're about to find out this week, and that's all I'm going to say. Can I get out of here, please? Can I get out of here?
You better, because
I'm being surrounded by y'all Cowboys fans. Personally, y'all need to back up.
you better, because JoJo, Stash Man, Shower, and Jay.
One day, Stephen A. Smith gonna get jumped by them Cowboy fans. We're gonna see it. You're gonna see it on the news. World famous sportscaster Stephen A. Smith stomped into a coma by Dallas Cowboy fans. They could not take it anymore. But anyway, once again, this notion that the so-called black community is homophobic or against lesbians or what have you is completely untrue, completely unfounded. As a matter of fact, once again, the so-called black community is the most gay-friendly community of any community, quote-unquote community, in America. I'm not even quite sure if there's a close second, because of course, the Caucasians, when they go gay or lesbian, they get accepted normally when they live in coastal cities. But when they live in middle America, for the most part, that's what they call like the Bible Belt, or that region of quote-unquote conservative Caucasians. They tend to not be accepted like in the coastal cities. But even in the hoods in middle America, the lesbians and the homosexuals are, they're given far more validity and far more credence and acceptance, so on and so forth. But when I watched this segment, I just thought it was interesting how Stephen A. Smith prefaced his response by by noting her energy. Because basically what he was saying was, why are you so mad for? Are you mad because you were born without a penis? Is that why you mad? Or are you mad because when you look in the mirror, you see somebody that you don't find attractive, so you decide to go lesbian? These are a lot of issues that the so-called black community that we need to confront head on. But the problem is that the so-called black man has become so liberal, he just lets everything go. The so-called black man does not really stand for much anymore. Those are a lot of the problems. But anyway, peace.